Thanks for joining, guys. I really just wanted to take a few minutes to point out a few things about LoanSifter that you have not been using, or at least most of you haven't been using, and we think you should be. Most of you are running searches. That's fantastic. But the next step to running searches is start saving your searches. Once you've talked to a borrower, we all know they're rarely ready to lock that day. So this is going to help you save that information so it's very easy to access later. The next piece is start tracking that scenario. Once you talk to your borrower, you know exactly what rate it is they're looking for, even if you haven't hit it yet. So the system's going to allow you to track it for what you want. We'll notify you when you hit it. And the final piece is using some of our marketing features where you can create some email campaigns to keep your borrowers informed of what is going on with the pricing so you can get in and lock it as soon as you can. Okay, here we are on your search page. So you guys are all pretty familiar with this. You run your search up top, you scroll down, you get your results. But what you need to be doing is you need to be saving these scenarios, because once your borrower calls and you quote them once, it doesn't really help you when they call you back later and you haven't saved the scenario. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put a name to it. What I always suggest you do is put your scenario name, so your product choice, let's say. I'm going to put this as a 30-year fixed. Now, if I have a contact already listed in my account, I can select from the drop-down. If I don't, I'm going to go ahead and click this plus button. It's going to open up the contact information. So I'm going to put in a test contact here, and maybe even a test email. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to hit save. Now, you can put as many notes or contact information as you really would like to put, but that's all you really need to get this thing started. So this is going to save it in just a second. There we go. And now if you look up top over here, I have test. So underneath this scenario, it's going to give you the name of that scenario that we named. Here's the borrower's name like I listed, and it's going to have the current price and rate for this particular scenario at this given time. Now when you move your mouse over the scenario, it's going to give you a little snapshot. Now I just ran this, so the current pricing and the pricing when I first ran it is the same, but let's take a look at Mickey Mouse here. You can see I ran this one on May 13th. GMAC was the top lender that day. Here was the rate and the YSP. Today, however, it's a different lender. Rate's the same, but the YSP has actually gone down. And you can see here it actually notifies you exactly how much that YSP has gone down. So you can see if the deal is better or worse right in front of you. Therefore, when your borrower gives you a call, you can immediately have that information right in front of you. Now from here you can add notes. I think I have some in one of these over here. Here's one. So you can add some notes right in here in case there's anything you want to know about every time this scenario comes up. You can add the note either to this particular scenario or to any scenario for that borrower's name. So there's lots of options for you to use it in here. Okay, once you've saved your scenario and it shows up over here, the next thing you're going to want to do is go up under your monitor. So let's head into the prospect monitor. Now this page lists all the saved scenarios you saved over on that front page, just lists it a little bit differently. Here's the borrower's name, here's that scenario, here's that best pricing on the very first day you ran it, and here's the best pricing today. If you go ahead and click on these, it's going to rerun the scenario for you. But what you can do now is you can move this over to a float monitor where you can start tracking pricing. So for example, I'm going to go ahead on here and I'm going to say I want to move this over to my float monitor. And now you'll see when I move over to my float monitor, that particular deal has automatically moved over here. So let's take a look. So here's that deal I just moved over here, the test, I believe that was the one. Maybe it was the Mickey Mouse, doesn't really matter. At any rate, I've moved it over here. Now it gives you the same information. Now from here, you're going to tell the system how you'd like to track it. So for example, again, we're looking at the rate when you first ran this deal. This particular deal was at 5.25. Maybe I'm trying to get to 5%. That's what my borrowers asked me. So I'm going to click on individual trigger, and I'm going to say I want to be notified anytime a rate drops by 1/4. That means when it drops down to 5%, it's going to use that same target YSP that I've asked for. But as soon as it hits the rate I've asked for, it's going to email me and it's going to notify me that rate has changed. You'll notice up here you want to make sure you put your current email up top. Now the other thing you can do on here is you have global float triggers. So for example, I just did an individual trigger, but you have the ability here to do global triggers that affect every single one of your deals. For example, maybe you want to be notified anytime a fixed deal drops by 1/4. You place that in here, and anytime an ARM drops by 1/2. But if you'd like, for instance, an 8 to be the individual trigger for this one, you can override this and say this particular deal, when it drops by 1/8, I want to be emailed and notified. When that happens, you will receive an email immediately that gives you all this information. It will tell you the borrower, it'll tell you who the lender was and the pricing originally, then it'll tell you it hit the trigger that you just asked for it to hit, and it'll show exactly what the current rate is. Obviously a very powerful system. You can start tracking exactly what it is your borrowers are asking for. Let me show you the final piece where now you can set up some email campaigns. So we're going to scroll up to the top here under your marketing. You're going to go ahead and click on Email Campaigns 3.0. Here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you one that I've already created. Okay, here you go. Now, your first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in a title for your campaign, and you can list over here. I have a few active campaigns. I have a few paused campaigns, but this is how it's going to list the title of your campaign. Then you've got the subject line. This is the subject of your actual email. This is what will be the subject line. Obviously, we're going to want to add an E in there to make sure that makes sense. Now, you can actually create some templates in here. I've done one myself. If you look down here, and I'll show you, just like I'm adding this in, just like anything else, Dear, you can go ahead and click recipient first name, comma. That's exactly what I did here. It's smart enough to create this template that for every borrower you add to this, it will pull out their first name. Go ahead and type out any verbiage that you'd like to put. Then you can enter in the search results, which are right here. I even put in my signature right here. By the way, your signature can be updated in your personal settings page, but it just makes it really easy for you. You can go through these different pages. You can add a recipient in here or multiple recipients. You can add your scenarios in here. You can even set it for how often you'd like this to be sent. So maybe you want to notify your borrower once a week of current pricing. You can set it up in the schedule page and say, I want this sent every, let's say, Tuesday at 2 p.m. That's where you set that. And I'm going to show you an example, a preview of what this email looks like. There you go. So it shows you every time this email is sent out. So for example, like we said, maybe every Tuesday, this is what it's going to do. It's going to pull out the same information. It pulled out that first name I suggested, got my signature down here. And yes, you guys can put your pictures and your logos down here. But what it did is it pulled out the scenario I asked it for. And it's going to pull out current accurate pricing every time you run the scenario. Every time the email is sent, it will pull out accurate pricing. You can even go in here in the details and you can take a look at what some of these additional points are here. So you've got your rate and your APR, your borrower points. Now it gives you the ability inside the email campaign to customize as much information as you'd like to show on here. We've hidden the lender, for example. It's usually not something you want to show your borrowers. But again, it's information you can manipulate it to show exactly how you'd like to show it. I just want to show you one other example that I created. Here we go. It's one of my paused ones, a Realtor weekly email. Now, any of you that work with realtors, this is an excellent piece to use with them. What I always say is, in my area, we have open houses on Tuesdays. So I say set up an email campaign, and this one's sort of a basic template. So I'll show you exactly what it looks like when it comes out. Set up an email campaign that goes to all of your realtors the morning of or the night before they have their open houses. So here you go, and this is going to go to all of my realtors that I've put in the list, and maybe you want to put a couple different products on here, and you can keep this updated, and every time it gets sent out, the pricing will be accurate. Very useful features. They're all included in your system. If you go on your training page at any point in time, you can always watch videos that will teach you how to create any of these things. There's the email campaigns. You might want to watch that. Very helpful information here. So just to wrap up, you want to start saving your scenarios after you've run them on the search page. You want to move them over to your opportunity monitor and your float monitor so you can start tracking that pricing. And then you want to start creating some email campaigns so you can create some really powerful marketing to not only keep your borrowers informed of their specific scenario pricing, but also keep your realtors informed of what's going on with pricing for the scenarios that will work for their particular homes. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully I'll talk to you all soon.